should we see him in the same way that we regard a Sachin Tendulkar or, I don't know, other great kind of domineering sportsmen?
I think they're two slightly different things. With Vettel, he is the best driver at the moment. He's the master of this particular car. But the car there is the important bit. You put him in a Marussia or a Caterham and he'll be at the back of the grid. He is brilliant. He's not that brilliant. And he's relying on having the best car on the grid, which he does currently have. Whereas with something like the All Blacks on the weekend, when England played them, they had a very real chance of beating them. They very nearly did, because it's a human sport. Whereas all the other drivers on the grid, they don't have a chance of beating Vettel, not with him in the current car. So they're two sort of different, I suppose, displays of dominance, aren't they? Because it's with Vettel winning all the time, he is winning all the time, but so is Red Bull.
And that is about engineering. Well, explain this to us then. You have got two Red Bull cars on the grid, one driven by him and the other driven by Mark Webber. Why, if you're saying it's just about the cars, why isn't Webber winning as often as Vettel?
I thought you were going to ask me that. The thing with Vettel is that he's come into Formula One quite recently. And the way the cars work at the moment is that when you lift off the throttle, they develop actually quite a lot of downforce. So as you're changing down and lifting off the throttle, going into a corner, you've got more grip, basically, than you would in any other car on the planet. And it's quite a sort of a counterintuitive, weird system. And Vettel is just better at exploiting that than every other driver. And he's better than Webber is at exploiting that in the current tyres. Whereas if you put Webber and Vettel in, say, a completely normal Honda Civic on the road or something like that, then they would be evenly matched, or Webber might be even faster. So while Webber's a great driver, he's just not getting the best out of the car at the moment.
And worth mentioning one other name, which is Adrian Newey, which if you're not, unless you're a follower of Formula One, I suspect won't mean that much to you, but
it should do, because Vettel has Newey to thank for almost all of his wins and all of his titles. He's the head designer at Red Bull, and throughout his time in Formula One, which has spanned quite a few decades, he's always built brilliant cars. And he's sort of a bit of an old-school designer, and while all the other designers are on their computers and using CFD and everything like that, he still sits down at a drawing board and draws cars with a pencil and design, and it's quite sort of romantic. But he's brilliant, and he is brilliant at aerodynamics, which is what these cars...
Each season the rules change slightly, don't they, for Formula One, or how the cars are constructed. And presumably once everyone saw that Red Bull had this car that aerodynamically was so superb and so suited to Vettel, they probably just thought, there's no point changing our car this season, we can't beat him. Let's just concentrate on what the new rules are for next season. So might it be a bit more egalitarian, or whatever the word is, next season?
Yeah, absolutely. And next year we're going to have one of the biggest rule changes in the sport's history. So going into this year, we knew that halfway through the season, if a team wasn't really in with a shout at winning either championship, then they would just, all their effort would go to next year. So halfway through the season, the Red Bull was the fastest car. And it's just stayed like that, because no one's really done too much this year's car. In a normal year, everyone still be developing technologies, they'd still be bringing new parts to the car, and it'd be a lot more even now. But at the moment, cars are identical and Vettel's on a roll.